In my past life, trusting my good brother, I allowed my sister and my fiancée to collude and seize my company. Seeing me bankrupt and collapsing in the heavy rain, looking utterly pathetic, they stood beside that brother, laughing gleefully. Opening my eyes again, I had returned to 3 years prior, right at the time of the project bidding conference. Back then, I was still working at City S. My sister and fiancé vehemently warned me, forbidding me from relying on the influence of the Key family and the Lux family to exert pressure, arguing it wouldn't be fair to others. Yet, turning around, they used all sorts of excuses to offer this very project to that brother, just to earn a smile from him. Living life again, I personally witnessed them resorting to the same tactics as in my past life, secretly manipulating to give the project that rightfully belonged to me to him. Finally, I was completely disillusioned. Upon hearing news of my impending departure abroad, my sister and fiancé even set off fireworks all night to celebrate finally getting rid of a useless person like me. But 3 years later, at the Snow Orchid Corporation's bidding conference, I appeared as the representative of a new startup, stepping onto the stage to speak. At this moment, their eyes turned red. After returning to City S, the first person I encountered unexpectedly was Kevin, the brother who was once very close to me. Kevin is currently the CEO of Triumph Company. At 18, he was admitted to Sterling University with outstanding grades, one of the top academies. After graduating, he started his business from scratch. In just 3 years, he rose to become a rising star in the commercial world. On the ground floor of the Golden Orchid building, the screen between the 2 elevators constantly played back his achievements since starting his business. 3 years apart, he no longer possessed the timid and shy demeanor of someone from a poor rural background. Instead, he exuded the noble aura of a successful man in a designer suit. Indeed, wealth can change a person. Today was Snow Orchid Corporation's project bidding conference in City S. From the Grand Hall, many reporters were already waiting. I didn't want to get involved with him, so I just lowered my head, trying to ignore him. But he proactively approached. "David? Is that really you?" Kevin's voice rang out, full of excitement. "I almost didn't recognize you. 3 years ago, you suddenly went abroad. I even thought you'd never come back." Kevin's tone was loud, so loud that reporters standing far away could hear clearly. After he spoke, I could feel many probing gazes focusing on me. Amidst the whispers, I could hear a few fragmented sentences. I glanced at Kevin. He pretended to be oblivious and continued, unexpectedly, "You've suddenly returned? Why didn't you give us a heads up? Could it be because you heard?" He suddenly stopped, then hurriedly said, "David, I'm sorry, I misspoke." But that flustered tone deliberately guided the curiosity of those around, making them speculate even more. A bold reporter immediately spoke up. "It's rumored that top jewelry designer Lily Key and Miss Jade Lux of the Lux family are both intending to propose to you, CEO Kevin. Is this true or false?" CEO Kevin, "If both Lily Key and Jade Lux propose to you, who will you choose?" Kevin smiled but didn't answer directly, only saying, "Everything currently is just internet rumors. I hope everyone can report rationally. As for Lily and Jade, they are both very good people. Right now, we are good friends." Just then, the elevator opened. He slightly bowed his head, smiled faintly. "Sorry, I still need to go on stage to speak at the Snow Orchid Corporation bidding conference. I have to go prepare first." Before entering the elevator, he even turned back to ask me, "David, do you want to come up together?" I hesitated for a moment, but the reporters, who hadn't gotten any information from him, immediately turned to pressure me. "David, it's said that before going abroad, you used to pursue Miss Lux. Is your return this time because you heard she wants to propose to CEO Kevin? It's also rumored that designer Lily Key is your half-sister. If CEO Kevin really becomes your brother-in-law, can you accept it? If Miss Lux really proposes to CEO Kevin, what do you plan to do? Stop it or bless them?" Their eyes were like hungry wolves, panting with excitement. Their eyes full of greed and excitement at hunting hot news. Reporters didn't care about the truth. What they wanted was attention and views. I knew if I didn't answer, in less than an hour, the internet would be flooded with all sorts of speculative rumors about the reason for my return. In my head, an image of someone very jealous suddenly flashed. I sighed, waved my hand to signal Kevin to go ahead. "David, you go first." Before the elevator doors closed, the corners of Kevin's mouth curved into a smile full of hidden meaning, a smile only I could see. I retracted my gaze, turned around to face the reporters, preparing to take out my invitation, but at that moment, a cold voice rang out from afar. David Key, who allowed you to come here? Don't tell me you want to be like 3 years ago, continuing to compete for A. Kevin's project? Camera lenses immediately swiveled, only to see my ex-fiancée, Jade Lux, wearing a tight mini dress, striding angrily towards me. 3 years ago was like this. 3 years later is still like this. David Key, can you just stop? Facing Jade Lux's accusations, I slightly frowned. What did she mean? The girl who was once in my heart, who vowed eternal love, now looked at me with eyes full of disgust. What? Is there anyone in City S who doesn't know that this time Snow Orchid Corporation has chosen to cooperate with A. Kevin? If you weren't here to compete for his project, then what other reason do you have for suddenly returning from abroad? Snow Orchid Corporation had decided to cooperate with Kevin. I had no idea about this. A thought flashed in my mind, but that hesitation was mistaken by Jade Lux as a guilty conscience for being exposed. The eyes that were already full of disgust now revealed even more contempt. You think you can still rely on the Key family status to suppress A. Kevin? Snow Orchid Corporation isn't some small company in City S. They don't care who you are. If you don't want to embarrass yourself, you better leave here immediately. I took out the invitation, waving it in front of her. Sorry, I am a formal guest of the bidding conference. You have no right to drive me away. Don't be shameless. Jade Lux gritted her teeth, about to raise her voice to threaten, but after hearing the whispers of the surrounding reporters, her eyes suddenly flashed with realization. She contemptuously looked at me, sneering, David Key, I told you a long time ago, the engagement between us has been annulled. Can you stop clinging to me? No matter what happens between A. Kevin and me in the future, there is no longer any possibility between you and me. I smiled faintly. You're thinking too much. I'm just here to attend the bidding conference. Moreover, I'm already married and don't care about who you are with. My voice wasn't lowered. The main purpose wasn't to explain to Jade Lux, but for the surrounding reporters to hear. The atmosphere suddenly became silent. But Jade Lux sneered. David Key, do you find this funny? You think lying that you're married will make me worried? Let me tell you, these tricks are useless. Whether you are married or not, I don't care. I just nodded indifferently, stepping into the elevator. Reaching the first floor, as long as the reporters didn't write nonsense, it was fine. As for whether Jade Lux believed it or not, I didn't care at all. I pressed the closed door button, but just as the doors were about to close, Jade Lux stepped in. In the enclosed space of the elevator, now only the two of us, she said in a deep voice, Tell me, what do you want to leave here? I smiled, but it wasn't a real smile. Aren't you confident in Kevin? You? How can you compare to A. Kevin? She sneered contemptuously, then slowly said, After A. Kevin signs the contract with Snow Orchid Corporation, I will propose to him on the spot. If you are present there, I'm afraid he will. I replied indifferently with 2 words, Congratulations. She was momentarily stunned, then her face darkened. Can you stop causing trouble? I know you are jealous, but feelings can't be forced. If you keep making trouble like this, in the end, it will only make things difficult for both of us. She appeared tired, but her tone was full of condescension. How about this? As long as you leave here right now, I will personally arrange to transfer 2 projects from the Lux family to you. I faintly shook my head. No need. Her eyes darkened, and her tone became unpleasant. I just don't want A. Kevin to be hurt. You should know when to stop. If you are not careful, you will end up with nothing. No matter what she said next, I was no longer interested in responding. When the elevator doors opened, anger was evident on Jade Lux's face. She huffily stepped out, coldly glanced at the person standing at the elevator door, then said a sentence, Manage your younger brother well. And then she angrily stomped away in her high heels. I looked at the woman standing outside the door, Lily Key, my half-sister. I sighed inwardly, unlucky. I didn't intend to pay attention to her, but as soon as I stepped out of the elevator, she grabbed my arm. She coldly looked at me, her voice like coated in a layer of ice. What are you doing here? I indifferently opened my mouth, bidding. Is that called causing trouble? David Key, immediately go back. Lily Key snapped, her voice filled with heavy reproach. Don't tell me you want to be like 3 years ago, continuing to compete for A. Kevin's project? These words were almost identical to what Jade Lux had just said. I raised my head, looking at the only person in the world who still had blood relations with me, only feeling extremely ridiculous. 3 years ago, that project was jointly invested by Key Corporation and Lux Corporation. Its scale wasn't large, but for startups, it was a rare opportunity. I thought I had the advantage of being closer to the water source, so I took the initiative to meet Lily Key to ask for this project, but I was flatly rejected by her. Afterward, Jade Lux also came to scold me. They said that doing so was unfair to small companies starting from scratch, but I didn't understand. The business world is originally a place of competition and resource exploitation. I had the ability to complete this project and also had enough necessary connections, so why couldn't I take advantage of it? Later, I realized they did this because they wanted to give this opportunity to Kevin. Immediately after warning me, Lily Key and Jade Lux immediately dispatched a professional team to help Kevin complete the project proposal. Even when I had almost won with just one vote difference, both of them personally came forward, using their judge status to vote for Kevin, helping him reverse the situation. When I questioned them, they indifferently replied, "Can you think about others a little? You still have Key Corporation and Lux Corporation backing you. But Kevin has nothing except the path to success. He has no other choice. We have the ability, of course we should help him. In my past life, I was unwilling to accept this. Right at the bidding conference, I exposed this matter, causing Kevin to fail in that bid. Afterward, I continuously clashed with him. In the end, Lily Key and Jade Lux, wanting to help Kevin, colluded to force my company to its death, causing me to go bankrupt even before him. When I was chased by creditors to the end of my rope, these two, who were originally my closest people, stood beside Kevin, watching me struggle and mocking and ridiculing me. I collapsed in the heavy rain. When I opened my eyes, I had returned to 3 years ago, and right at this bidding conference. Seeing Lily Key and Jade Lux once again resorting to tricks to help Kevin, I was completely disillusioned. After dissolving my company on the very night they celebrated Kevin's victory, I boarded a plane alone and left the country. In the past 3 years, they had never contacted me once. But the first time I reappeared after 3 years, they were so on guard, only fearing that I would harm the man they cherished in their palms. Even having lived through a lifetime, I still felt my heart as if being squeezed. I repeated the words that Lily Key had said 3 years ago when forcing me to withdraw from the bidding. I am not participating in the bidding in the capacity of the Key family. You have no right to drive me away. Saying this, I shook off her hand, turned and left. But having only taken 2 steps, 2 bodyguards suddenly appeared, blocking my path. I turned back to look at Lily Key, but her expression was still indifferent as before. Hey Kevin, if he wins this project, his company can go public 2 years ahead of schedule. I can't let you ruin his opportunity. According to regulations, if the representative of the bidding company is not present at the scene, it means forfeiting the bid. The bid opportunity will be transferred to the next company. In the past 3 years, she had exerted all her strength to support Kevin, but even now, she still didn't have the slightest confidence in his ability. Therefore, she still had to resort to cheating tactics to help him win the project. Someone like this could make my 2 closest people betray me again and again. I suddenly found it funny, but also a bit bitter. I wanted to ask Lily Key, what exactly did she like about Kevin? But thinking about it, it no longer made sense. Between us, a lifetime had died. There was no possibility of reconciliation. I looked at her indifferently. Lily Key, do you think just relying on these 2 people can stop me? She frowned. What did you call me? I laughed coldly, not answering, but walking straight towards the 2 bodyguards blocking my path. Lily Key snapped immediately, and the 2 tall and sturdy bodyguards rushed towards me. Seeing the 2 arms reaching to restrain me, I immediately took a step forward, my body leaning back, while simultaneously pushing hard towards their shoulders with both hands, forcing them to raise their arms to defend. Seizing this opportunity, I withdrew my hands to my chest, using force from my waist and back to bounce upright, while simultaneously launching a powerful elbow strike towards the bodyguards' chests. Bang bang, 2 sounds of impact rang out. The 2 bodyguards were pushed back. I quickly slipped behind them. Taking advantage of their unsteady footing, I immediately swung my hand, exerting force to strike hard at their backs. As they pulled out stun guns, I immediately retreated, widening the distance from them. At this moment, positions had been exchanged. The 2 bodyguards, having just regained their footing, were about to rush forward again, but I took another step back, placing myself within the surveillance range of the camera. Enough. Stop. Lily Key hurriedly ordered the bodyguards to stop, then looked at me complexly. When did you become so capable? I silently glanced at her, then turned and walked towards the bidding hall. That's right. Since when did I become so strong? When I entered the hall, Kevin's speech was nearing its end. My seat wasn't far from Jade Lux. As soon as she saw me, she immediately lowered her voice to sneer. Unexpectedly, your useless sister still let you in. Her gaze swept towards the stage where a man was standing. In her eyes, she couldn't hide the admiration and love. Look, if they hadn't decided to award this project to A. Kevin, Snow Orchid Corporation wouldn't have invited him to speak. Now that you're in here, you better behave yourself. If you ruin A. Kevin's affairs, don't blame me for being impolite. At this moment, Lily Key also followed into the hall. Seeing her appear, the corners of my lips slightly curved up, gently nodding in a certain direction. Just as Kevin finished his last sentence and prepared to leave the stage, the MC stepped forward, stopping him. Surely everyone is very familiar with our guest of honor today, City S's outstanding young entrepreneur, Mr. Kevin Zhang. In just 3 years, he has risen from scratch to become one of the most prominent figures in the business world. After a string of praises, the MC's expression suddenly changed, and his tone also shifted direction. To demonstrate the spirit of cooperation and joint development between Snow Orchid Corporation and the business community in City S, we not only invited Mr. Kevin Zhang to speak, but also asked him to announce the results of today's bidding. Kevin was slightly stunned, but still maintained a proper smile, whispering a few questions to the MC. After a short negotiation, the MC handed him a result announcement card, then excitedly announced, "Now, please invite Mr. Kevin Zhang to announce the winning company of this project." Kevin took the microphone, his eyes sweeping over the content on the card. "I hereby announce that the winning company for this project is 100 Willows Limited." He continued reading the last line, "Company owner, David Key." Kevin immediately froze, his expression instantly paling. The smile on his lips also completely disappeared. The card in his hand fell to the ground. The entire hall fell into a strange silence. His voice, stretched taut, almost seemed to tear the air. "This is impossible." In his panic, he looked towards me. I just gently curved my lips, looking at him with meaningful eyes. The MC's expression also changed, his tone becoming serious. "Mr. Kevin, do you have any objections to Snow Orchid Corporation's decision?" No. Kevin startled awake, immediately shaking his head in denial. But immediately afterward, he hurriedly asked, "Could there be some mistake?" The MC's tone became cold. "Please don't question the working ability of Snow Orchid Corporation's staff. Mr. Kevin, please return to your seat." Kevin stood motionless, but under the MC's sharp gaze, he finally slowly stepped down from the stage. Before leaving, he even received a contemptuous glance from the MC. Afterward, the MC turned towards the audience, raising his voice. "Such a simple matter, and there was a mistake. It seems this young entrepreneur isn't as brilliant as rumored. Now, let me officially announce the bidding results." The MC picked up the card that fell on the floor, his tone solemn. "I hereby announce that the winning company for this project is 100 Willows Limited, company owner, David Key." The entire hall was dead silent. Jade Lux and Lily Key were completely stunned. I slowly stood up, straightened my suit cuffs, and leisurely walked onto the stage. Standing on the podium, I gave a standard smile, sweeping my eyes across the hall. "Hello everyone, I am David Key, owner of 100 Willows Limited. I am very honored to become a partner of Snow Orchid Corporation. I hope in the future to receive help and cooperation from entrepreneurs in City S to develop and go further together." The silence was so profound that the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. Most people had previously thought that Kevin would definitely win the bid. This result completely surprised them, even before they could react. But after just a moment, rounds of applause began to ring out, followed by congratulations one after another. "Congratulations, CEO Key. Congratulations, CEO Key. Hope to have a pleasant cooperation in the future. Congratulations. Congratulations. David Key, truly young and talented." I smiled, responding to each person, not showing any arrogance. Afterward, the applause became even louder. The business world values interests more than feelings. As long as they could share a piece of the profit pie, they would quickly forget who had lost. In fact, they didn't really care who won the project, as long as there were benefits to be had. But not long after, In that atmosphere of joyful congratulations, a piercing voice rang out. David Key, this time you've really gone too far. Before everyone's eyes, Lily Key parted the crowd, striding forward. She raised her hand, intending to slap me, but I leaned aside, causing her expression to become even angrier and more disappointed. David Key, how many times have I told you? Even though you carry the Key family name, if you've started a business, you are not allowed to rely on the power of the Key family to seek personal gain. Other companies painstakingly bid, exhausting all their efforts to prepare documents, but you just need to open your mouth and say you're from the Key family to take away the project. Do you think this is fair to others? I glanced at Kevin, who was sitting on a chair with a pale face, then turned back to smile faintly. Lily Key, are you speaking on behalf of everyone, or on behalf of Kevin? Lily Key's expression momentarily became unnatural, but immediately she regained her composure, appearing righteous. Don't confuse the issue. Kevin has worked day and night for this project. What qualifications do you have to compare with him? I laughed coldly. How do you know I didn't work hard? I am your sister. How could I not know what you are like? She said disdainfully. You, the youngest son of the Key family, have lived in luxury since childhood. In the past, you slept until 10 a.m. every day before getting up. With that lazy nature, what project could you create on your own? Immediately, the eyes of the people around me changed. The crowd surrounding me instinctively retreated a little, starting to whisper. Really? Lily Key is his half-sister. She probably wouldn't lie, right? Sounds reasonable. Doesn't this mean this project was obtained through backdoor connections? In the business world, reputation is the most important thing. If today I was labeled as cheating, I would definitely encounter many obstacles in the city's business circle in the future. Looking at Lily Key righteously accusing me, my eyes gradually turned cold. This was the half-sister who shared blood with me? For a man who was still toying with her feelings, she was willing to push me to the end of the road. Just then, a burst of applause suddenly rang out from the side. Does Miss Key mean that Snow Orchid Corporation used its power for personal gain? All eyes simultaneously turned to the person who had just spoken. A woman in a black business dress, tall and slender, slowly walked over. Lily Key's expression subtly changed. Who are you? The MC immediately introduced, his tone full of respect. Today, you are all truly fortunate to meet her. This is the CEO of Snow Orchid Corporation, Hazel Snow. Hazel Snow glanced at me, a gesture so subtle that no one noticed. Then she looked at Lily Key, her voice without emotion. Miss Key, you still haven't answered my question. Lily Key stammered. I didn't mean that. If you didn't mean that, then why did you say that? Hazel Snow raised Lily Key's chin, her crimson lips curving into a faint smile. I heard you're his half-sister. If so, why are you willing to falsely accuse your own brother in front of so many people? I'm very curious. What exactly is the reason? What is it that makes his sister hate her brother to the point of being willing to ruin him? Her tone wasn't harsh, but Lily Key paled, unable to say a word. How boring. Hazel Snow released Lily Key's chin, looked left and right, then took out a tissue, wiping her fingertips. Only has a pretty face, but doesn't know how to think. It's a pity. Lily Key, as the dignified daughter of the Key family, had never suffered this humiliation. Her face flushed red with anger. Enough. Jade Lux suddenly jumped up, her eyes full of hatred, looking at me. Even if you are the CEO of Snow Orchid Corporation, you can't condone someone like him who specializes in backdoor deals. She gritted her teeth, her tone full of indignation. CEO Snow, perhaps you don't know, this isn't the first time David Key has done this. Hazel Snow slightly raised her eyebrows, the corners of her lips curling up slightly. Are you talking about the incident 3 years ago? Jade Lux's eyes immediately lit up. Yes. That time, the project had investment from both the Lux family and the Key family, but David Key relied on his identity as the young master of the Key family and my future fiancée, forcing the board of judges to award the project to him. If it weren't for Lily Key and I discovering it in time, he would have succeeded. It's because of that incident that he had to flee abroad afterward. Today, I don't know how many times I've heard the incident 3 years ago mentioned. Hearing it too many times, I no longer had any feeling. I even felt luckier than ever. Luckily, in this life, I left the country early. Otherwise, they wouldn't just have this one thing to attack me with. In my past life, I wholeheartedly confronted Kevin, but every time I was about to achieve victory, Lily Key or Jade Lux would jump out, using the power of the two families to help him deal with me, and then blame all the mistakes on me. History is always written by the victors. Even though I was the youngest son of the Key family, after going bankrupt, I couldn't recover, partly because I was jointly ruined by them in terms of reputation. But I didn't speak up in rebuttal, just quietly waiting to see how Hazel Snow would continue to act. After hearing Jade Lux's words, she chuckled softly, slowly saying, "But the truth I heard seems to be different from what you said." Jade Lux glared at me, then turned to Hazel Snow. "CEO Snow, you must have been deceived by David Key." Haha. When did I say I heard it from him? Hazel Snow raised her eyebrows, gently clapping her hands a few times. "Someone, come in." A group of people walked in, all members of the project evaluation board from 3 years ago, especially those from Lux Corporation. Hazel Snow glanced at Jade Lux, indifferently asking, "Do you recognize them?" Jade Lux's expression subtly changed, but she didn't dare deny it. Hazel Snow gave a satisfied smile. "Then can you tell me, who exactly was the one who used backdoor deals and cheated in the bidding that year?" Jade Lux bit her lip, remaining silent. I interjected at the right moment. "Miss Lux, haven't you always said that 3 years ago I was the one who took advantage of my identity? Why aren't you continuing to say it now?" She didn't dare offend Hazel Snow, but she didn't show any restraint towards me. Jade Lux immediately snapped. "David Key, you're a man. Why are you so petty? Back then, I just falsely accused you a little. Do you have to hold on to it until now? And don't forget, I was once your fiancée." Hazel Snow looked at me, her eyes flashing with meaningful amusement. I didn't hesitate at all, replying, "Ex-fiancée. 3 years ago, our engagement was already annulled." "Okay, if you don't speak, others will speak for you." I casually pointed to one of the former members of the project evaluation board. That person immediately recounted the entire incident 3 years ago in the most detailed way. Instantly, everyone's eyes looking at Lily Key and Jade Lux completely changed. Compared to backdoor deals, what was more disgusting was both using backdoor deals and blaming others. Moreover, that person was their own brother. This was no different from a fatal stab. Being criticized by everyone like this, Lily Key and Jade Lux's eyes were filled with hatred as they looked at me. I just faintly curved my lips. From now on, at least in the city's business circle, they would no longer have a foothold. It was understandable that they hated me, but everything wasn't over yet. Looking at the two of them panicking, I kindly reminded, "Aren't you curious why these people are willing to help me testify?" Just then, Hazel Snow's voice, full of amusement, rang out. "Because Lux Corporation has already been acquired by me." Jade Lux suddenly raised her head, looking at us in shock. I continued to remind her, "If you don't believe it, you can call to confirm." Jade Lux hurriedly took out her phone, but when she looked at the screen, she was stunned, no signal. I pretended to have just realized, patting my forehead, showing an embarrassed expression. "Sorry, I forgot to turn off the signal jammer." I gestured to the MC. After he left the hall and returned, I smiled. "Now you can try calling again." Jade Lux immediately took her phone and ran to the side to make a call, while Lily Key, at this moment, seemed to suddenly realize something. She suddenly pointed at the MC, suspiciously asking me, "David Key, how did you know there was a signal jammer in the hall, and why does he listen to you like that?" "That's right. Why?" I faintly curved my lips, turning to Hazel Snow, slowly saying, "Honey, why don't you tell them why?" "Honey." Lily Key repeated the word, her eyes blankly looking between me and Hazel Snow. "You two are husband and wife?" I nodded in confirmation. Hazel Snow smiled faintly, her eyes gently looking at me, completely different from her cold appearance just now. No wonder. Lily Key seemed to have lost all strength, collapsing onto a chair. No wonder from the beginning she stood on his side. No wonder she came forward to help improve his innocence. She smiled bitterly, asking, "Today's bidding conference, is it also a trap that you two set up in advance?" I calmly nodded. "Actually, whether I win this project or not, I am not short of money. It's just that Hazel Snow knows very well that the bidding conference 3 years ago was one of my biggest nightmares. That's why she meticulously arranged everything for today. The only mistake was meeting the three of them outside, almost causing me to be late." Lily Key spoke again. "Lux Corporation has been acquired by you, so Key Corporation probably isn't much better off either, right?" Hazel Snow shrugged, her tone carrying a hint of teasing. "You really aren't very smart, are you? I already said that Key Corporation now belongs to David." Of course, We have to let my husband do it himself. She raised her thumb and index finger, forming a small gap, then said indifferently, "It's just that there were a few shareholders who were a bit unreasonable, so I conveniently bought their shares." Hazel Snow smiled meaningfully. "Perhaps now, the only person still holding shares in Key Corporation is you?" After confirming the truth, Lily Key suddenly burst out laughing, but that laughter was full of bitterness. She slumped onto the floor, looking at me, her eyes revealing a grievance. "David, I am your own sister. Why do you scheme against me like this?" "Own sister?" I faintly pursed my lips, looking straight into her eyes, coldly asking back, "Have you ever seen me as your brother?" "Why not?" She suddenly became angry, starting to reproach. "Don't forget, when Mom and Dad passed away, who coaxed you to sleep? Who played with you? Who ate with you every day? If it weren't for me, could you have grown up peacefully like today?" I looked at Lily Key, who was so agitated that she was almost going crazy, only feeling bitterness in my heart. That's right. She had once been very good to me, so good that for Kevin, she betrayed me again and again. I had once foolishly believed that she was just temporarily blinded, until I collapsed in the rain that night. I finally completely woke up. After asking the MC to remove irrelevant people from the hall, I looked at Lily Key, suddenly speaking. "Aren't you doing all this for those 20% shares?" She immediately fell silent, her eyes widening in panic. I tightened my fists, slowly saying, "I've always felt strange. We relied on each other for so many years. Even just because of someone you like, you couldn't suddenly change your attitude towards me completely like that. It's too abnormal." Until later, I realized I can't believe that Jade Lux, a pampered heiress, being deceived by Kevin is nothing strange. But you? You were also bewitched by him. I glanced at Kevin, who had been silent all this time, then curved my lips into a sneer. "Perhaps you also like him a little, but more importantly, he is a smokescreen to help you distract me, so I wouldn't pay attention to those shares, right?" I lowered my head, looking straight at Lily Key. "The past 3 years I was abroad, the robberies I encountered, were they also directed by you behind the scenes?" This last question was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Lily Key completely collapsed, slumping onto the floor, but still trying to ask back. "How did you know?" "Just suspicion." I leaned against the podium, my tone indifferent, as if recounting an ordinary story. "Until once I was robbed abroad. That person got my money, but still deliberately wanted to kill me. You didn't do it cleanly. When I started investigating, just by following a clue, I could trace the entire truth." Speaking of this, I chuckled softly, the smile almost a bit crazy. "Look, how much I trusted you. Even when you revealed so many flaws, I never suspected that you could harm me. But why couldn't you trust me a little more?" I gradually fell silent, my voice also becoming choked. "Since I was 5 years old, you have raised me. Yet, why did you think that in my heart, money is more important than you? If you needed those shares, just say a word to me. I was willing to transfer them to you unconditionally." Suddenly, a soft hand intertwined tightly with mine, fingers gripping tightly between my fingers. I turned my head, facing Hazel Snow's gaze. 3 years ago, the first time I was chased, I accidentally met Hazel Snow, someone who was also in a desperate situation. After we both escaped danger, we were almost exhausted, collapsing to the ground. At that time, the adrenaline in my body subsided. The grievances and pain from 2 lifetimes surged up like tides. Suddenly, I felt extremely empty. Just as I was sinking into the feeling of wanting to give up on everything, it was she who took my hand first. From that day on, I knew that even if the whole world turned its back on me, she would always be by my side. Memories returned. I looked towards Lily Key, giving a polite but distant smile. "You raised me for many years, so even if you have sent people to kill me many times, I will not report it to the police." I placed the share transfer agreement that I had prepared in advance in front of her. "But to be fair, your goal is these shares, so you also have to transfer your shares to me, then withdraw from Key Corporation." Lily Key raised her head, looking at me, her eyes filled with regret. "David, can you give me one more chance?" I shook my head, coldly replying, "A broken mirror cannot be pieced back together. Some mistakes, once committed, can never be remedied. Sign it." Signing it, between us, it will be considered that we no longer owe each other. Lily Key bit her lip tightly, gripping the pen in her hand. Large tears fell onto the paper, but just before the tears soaked into the contract, she still chose to sign her name. When she stood up to leave, she didn't even look at Kevin once. When Kevin opened his mouth, intending to say something, I chuckled, speaking first. What? You thought she would go with you? Lily Key's footsteps faltered for a second at the door, but in the end, she still didn't turn her head back, nor did she do anything. As for Jade Lux, she had already left as soon as she learned that Lux Corporation had gone bankrupt. In my past life, she caused me to go bankrupt. In this life, I caused Lux Corporation to collapse. My revenge was enough. A high and mighty heiress, now losing the backing of her family, plus being completely blacklisted, the days of hardship afterward, for her, were more painful than death. I didn't need to take further action. At this moment, in the hall, only Hazel Snow, Kevin, and I remained. I sat down comfortably, leisurely looking at him. Kevin tightened his fists, finally unable to hold back anymore, coldly speaking, David Key, don't be smug. This is a society ruled by law. If you dare do anything to me, the law will not let you off. I was in a rather heavy mood, but his words made me burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. What did you say? I didn't expect that the word law could also come out of your mouth. Evildoers will not only do evil once. I didn't believe that after tasting the sweetness of power and tricks, Kevin would only target me. Therefore, before returning, I had people thoroughly investigate him. Lux Corporation and Key Corporation could manipulate the entire city, yes, but the power that Lily Key and Jade Lux could use was only a small part. Moreover, there were many things Kevin had hidden from them. So, with my resources, plus the support of Snow Orchid Corporation behind Hazel Snow, collecting evidence against him wasn't difficult. I took another file that I had prepared, casually flipping through a few pages. Tax evasion, forced acquisitions, causing serious injury. I threw the file onto him, laughing coldly. So many charges. In the past few years, you relied on the protection of Lily Key and Jade Lux to be so arrogant. CEO Kevin. Kevin trembled, picking up the file. Having only glanced at a few lines, he was as if he had just grabbed hot coals, hurriedly throwing the file away. You have no evidence. You're slandering me. I won't admit it. I curved my lips into a sneer. Who said I have no evidence? He instinctively took a step back, then gritted his teeth, threatening, your sister and your fiancée, even if they didn't know anything, they were accomplices. Are you willing to watch them go to jail? I burst out laughing, lowering my head to straighten my suit cuffs, my tone indifferent. First, I would like to emphasize again, ex-sister and ex-fiancée. Looking at him gradually paling, I continued. My revenge against them has ended. As for who caused them to be implicated in this case, that's you, not me. At most, I can only be considered a model citizen who actively reports crimes. David Key, I was wrong. Please don't report me to the police. It was my stupidity. It was my ingratitude. It was my lack of awareness. Seeing that I had no intention of showing mercy, Kevin was truly panicked. He suddenly knelt down, waving his hand, slapping himself hard in the face, tears and snot streaming down his face. It was I who was blind. It was I who bit back at my benefactor. You can beat me, scold me, whatever you want. Just please spare me. I am willing to be an ox, a horse to repay you. Living life again, yet I had forgotten one thing. Kevin's university tuition that year was funded by me. It turned out that this ingrate wolf was raised by my own hands. Recalling this memory, the feeling of satisfaction from revenge also faded a lot. I stood up, taking Hazel Snow's hand, walking towards the door. Passing by Kevin, I gently patted his shoulder, slowly saying, everyone has to pay the price for their mistakes. And that's it. Remember to reform yourself well. If you still have a chance to get out, we will settle the remaining debts. I didn't ask the reason why he targeted me, nor did I care why he hated me. Because with his accumulated crimes, don't even mention being released, he might not even live until next autumn. To someone who was about to die, I was always lenient. I allowed him to take his secrets to the grave. Stepping out of the building, sunlight pierced through the space, shining down on me. Hazel Snow intertwined her fingers with mine, gently asking, what do you plan to do next? Next, huh? I thought for a moment, then scooped her up in my arms. Amidst her surprised exclamation, I walked straight to the Maybach Park not far away. Next, let's go home. The old story had closed. The painful memories also vanished with the past. Now, the sun was beautiful, and the time was just right.